Hello, I'm Alexandros Nizamis from Center for Research and Technology, ELAS, or CERTH. I'm coordinating the ENACT project that is aiming to build a cognitive computing continuum coming from Horizon Europe funding from EC. Okay. Okay. And the presentation is not focused only on ENACT results and what we are doing on ENACT. Of course, I'm going to give you the project overview and see what tools are available, etc. But the idea is to see some lessons learned on what's happening in an EC research project that aims to deliver open source and how some initiatives like Eclipse Foundation, for example, that host this event and participate in the project support these open source activities. Okay, I think that we have an issue with the adapter and okay. And in addition of it, we will discuss about what is available in our repository as a kind of results from the project. So starting from the project, as I said, is a collaborative initiative from 17 partners. We are now on the third year of the project, so we have plenty of results out there. And our approach is to develop different tools that can support us to connect and discover distributed resources. Okay. I think I will spend half presentation on it. Can we try another adapter or something? Okay. Also to develop an AI-powered orchestrator that will support the optimal deployment of various applications in the cognitive computing continuum as we are trying to deploy it there from edge to fog to cloud. And also we have our application development toolkit that support us to create some applications that can be flexible when they are running on the cloud or on edge, etc., etc. So if we go now to the open source approach in EC funding research projects, we have found different kind of barriers and obstacles that the projects may face. For example, first of all, we have many partners. As you see in this example, we are 17 partners, but there are research projects with many more. You can find with 40 or even 70 partners now. And all of them have individual exploitation plans, or they have some joint exploitation plans with others. In some cases, we need to create a common platform that is a joint effort for all of them. All of them have different IPRs, so it's really hard to manage and bring them under a common license, especially if we are talking of open source, as some parts of software is proprietary from companies and so on. A second really huge obstacle that we find is the lack of open source culture in consortium members. This happens as we have research partners, we have universities that they are focusing more on research and not that delivering appropriately the open source of the code. And also we have some SMEs that are working on closed code, so they're not aware a lot about delivering open source. Of course, we have companies, pilot partners that also are not experienced on this kind of things. And in many cases, we think that is for many people is a low priority. They do the development, they implement the project, and it's something that they consider at the end, okay, let's make it open source. So for us, these are the main and more classic barriers that you can see in a European project trying to deliver it full open source. However, it's really important to deliver the projects in open source. First of all, as you get funding from a funder like the European Commission, you have some rules to follow, and you have to be compliant with open science. Now, this is not only for papers to be open access or just for the data to be public available. When you really want to do open science, you have to do it first of all with software. What all these funded projects do is software. So the software should be available as open source. And you have to do that. So it's something that is really important because in the end there is always a funder for the research. So it's something that you have to consider. Another part is that as we're talking about this European Commission digital sovereignty, also if you really want with your research and with your software and outcomes to participate on that, really you have to go open source. There is now this Eurostack. So if you want really to be a contributor, it's what's going on in Europe, and you want your tools to be there, it's mandatory to be open source. So you cannot add in this Eurostack a closed source project. Also, what is very important, and it's not only for the European part now, it's okay, it's something globally. If you want some sustainability after this grant that you get, you have to build a community around your project, your components, your tools, and so on. So if you want to have a higher impact in what you are doing, it's really, really important to be open and try to build this community over it and have more collaborators that can continue your work. Even if you want to do it, also the others can do and can support, and you can check for this for future products or for future research grants or whatever. So some key project actions and also the support coming from Eclipse Foundation to us, that is to help us how to deliver that, and it's really important. First of all, starting with some webinars and presentations related to open source. So it's something that we organized regularly in the first year of the project, so to try to raise awareness about this issue and also to educate people on open source. Is something that should be done in close collaboration with exploitation activities of a project, because we have to define which are the IP rights and which are the license that each partner has associated with its component. So it's really an activity that should be done close to these exploitation activities. Of course, the setup of repositories such as the Eclipse Research Lab helps a lot to do that. Of course, how to not only upload your software, but also how to manage, monitor, and so on is really important. And in the end, if you manage to do that and agree that somehow, okay, we are going for open source, we start submit our code on the research lab and so on, you need a continuous monitoring for licensing compatibilities. Eclipse helps a lot on this, and our colleagues from the project, because still there are many different open source licenses, so you have to select one. Actually, what we did as a project was to find one that all of us were okay to use it, and it's how we work on it, but still we try to solve all these incompatibilities, because maybe you need repos from already existing software, so still you should check from any relevant incompatibilities there and so on. So you need really a lot of effort on monitoring these activities. And of course, every time we're doing a dedicated session for our open source repo and see what things is going on, if any new incompatibility may arise, or how the commits or the activities go there. So this is our repo. You can find all the project outcomes available there. Of course, the project, as I said, is still under development. We're now on our third year. We have agreed all together for a common license, which is Apache license 2. And you can find there 26, over than 26 projects and over than 40 team members that contribute on our repo. Also, we find very useful that the tool can be used for our technical monitoring. This also increases the transparency for our code and for our activities, as everything is open for everyone to check what we are doing, how we are handling different issues, developments, and so on. So I think this is something that supports more the open source part. Regarding now the components and the tools that you can find available, there are a lot of them, as I said. Some key of them, there are some extensions to Tosca models for describing the continuum components. Also, you can find a security risk modeler that you can model a whole system and get different type of security risks regarding that. One of our key components is our dynamic graph modeler. This is actually a kind of digital twin of the whole continuum, so you can monitor their nodes and pods and on real time and see what is running in each node and so on, so you can see the current situation of the continuum. You can find also some solutions about onboarding new devices or services in the continuum, such as our zero-touch provisioning service. Also, we have our data and object space. We have created, based on the guidelines of data spaces, we have created an object space to share also source code, not only data. And we have also an extension of Eclipse SDK in our SDK toolkit for using our application programming model for developing these applications from ENACT project. And for example, here, two of these tools, the zero-touch provisioning and the SDK, are available as open source, but still that the Siemens that have the IPR have already filed them for internal patent and try to create some products over that. So the open source was not a problem for them. The core is open source, but their product can be licensed still by them, and they can be further exploited. So it's fine for them as well. So everything can still be tried to be in the research part open source. Also, you can find a lot of AI solutions for some forecasting models for the continuum, try to predict some usage of resources. We have also one of our core innovations that is the GNN-enabled DRL orchestration agent that can optimize the resource allocation and scheduling from cloud to edge. Also, as you can see in the graph, it is outperforms some existing solutions. We have our virtual training environment and also an LLM-based AI Act compliance checker. As in the continuum, AI is everywhere. Also, it's very important to check biases and compliance with the AI Act. So this is another tool. And this is my last slide. Besides what is available on open source, to see also some connectivity of open source with standardization activities, and if finally it is a supporter, it's something that is an obstacle. So regarding the last tool that I'm talking about AI compliance checker, we have set up a new working item on Etsy. And what we find there is that it was mandatory for this component to be open source. If we want to contribute on standardization activities, for example, the Etsy standards accepts only open source. If will not the open repo from Eclipse Research Labs, we had otherwise to upload our code as an open source on an Etsy repository. So it's something that is important also for standardization activities. They try to fully integrate the open source approach into them, the relevant initiatives. Same situation with some EC initiatives such as the Data Space Association and the DSSC as well. They have this radar. There you have also a component that they try to support you also to bring the code and the connection to the repository, etc. So also these kind of activities are really relevant to open source, and open source support them, not to be an obstacle. Same with the IPs that we discussed before. So I think that's it from my side about some lessons learned, evidence, or whatever regarding how open source comes in the research projects. I don't know if there are any questions.
Do we have any question for our friend, Alexandros? No? Just since you did a very good presentation with pros and cons, I didn't understand if you like open source or not.
No.
Or did you get that? Because it was like, yeah, we can do that, but and then we can do that, and we have a lot of partners that, and we need to convince them. So
that's the idea. If you want to be open, there is always pros and cons.
There's always a problem. Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm in favor. I love open source, to be honest. I think that helps helps a lot, okay?
Okay.
But we should consider also some pros and cons in every part. But,
No, that's true,
but,
that's true. But you were so fair in your presentation that it was not clear, so that's just...
Yeah, because I said also a lot about the Eclipse Foundation. It seems that I do advertisement to you, so I want to avoid that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.